Hi everyone, my name is Lori Dupuy. I'm going to be talking to you today about Cowpens and what I call the forgotten turning point of the Revolutionary War. Now, Cowpens National Battlefield is the area that I'm going to be talking about. How many of you knew about Cowpens before the start of this class? Raise your hand. I certainly didn't. But let's ask this question. How many of you have seen the movie Patriot? Probably a few more hands went up, me certainly. Well, the battle depicted in that historical fictional account with Mel Gibson is the Battle of Cowpens. So remember that part where Gibson says, all you have to do is fire 2 rounds and then you can fall back and the regulars will take over? Well, Daniel Morgan, the commander of the troops on the American side, actually did that in an attempt to keep the militia from being routed and retreating in a disorderly fashion, as the military often did when put in confrontation with the British line to line. Now, the militia did great firing behind trees. They just didn't take a liking to being out there in the middle being shot by the British, and personally, I can agree with them on that. Learning about the battlefield doesn't mean much if you don't really understand about the battle. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And as always, I have my notes. So the battle at Cowpens, and Cowpens, I'm not going to ask how many know what really a cowpen is. Those of us in Montana know what cowpens are. Was originally known as Hannah's Cowpens. The battle happened on January 21st, 1781 in Cherokee County, South Carolina. Daniel Morgan, who had separated himself from General Nathaniel Greene, who I'm slightly related to. I think he's a cousin way back when. And he squared against the infamous Lieutenant Colonel Banastre Tarleton. Now, Tarleton was not a very nice guy, and he was known for giving no quarter even when Americans tried to surrender. And according to the National Park Service, in information I read from them, Tarleton was known to the Americans who used Tarleton's quarter, in other words, no quarter, as their battle cry during the battle at Cowpens. Back to the fire 2 shots. Having only to fire 2 shots allowed a specific goal for the militia and resulted during Cowpens of the militia standing fast for at least those 2 shots and falling back. By falling back, because they had been told to fall back, the British regulars believed that they had caused another rout of the militia and ran right into the breach. So what Tarleton did, in essence, was he ran right into an ambush. The battle lasted maybe an hour. According to Dr. Joseph Fisher, military historian from a lot of different places in the Army War College, states that the Battle of Cowpens was the beginning of the end for Lord Cornwallis. Most of the British that were involved in the battle were either killed, captured, or wounded. Cornwallis also learned at that time that the loyalists he was depending on to support his troops with at least provisions and intelligence were not willing to displease their neighbors. Dr. Fisher argues that Cowpens was one of the decisive battles of the Revolutionary War. Decisive means that the results changed the course of the war. Boston, New York, and Philadelphia fell, and still the Americans wouldn't give up. Cowpens showed the South, though probably the most loyalist area of the colonies, would not come out to support the British. In 1856, 1 acre of land was set aside, covenanted to Washington Light Infantry. They were involved in the battle, as an area where a monument was erected in April. This 1 acre property was later deeded in 1928 to the local Daughters of the American Revolution. The DAR promised to maintain the monument. Unfortunately, this rural monument was often vandalized. Starting in March of 1989, Congress attempted to make the area a battlefield monument. Bills kept dying in committee. Cowpens National Monument was finally officially designated March 4, 1929, under control of the War Department. According to the National Park Service, the creation of this monument was fully supported by the community. The monument was transferred on August 10, 1933 to the National Park Service and redesignated on April 11, 1972 from a monument to the battlefield site. The area is listed on the National Registry of Historic Places on October 15, 1966. From 1 acre in 1958, the area now comprises over 840 acres. For all those naval buffs in the audience, the USS Cowpens was a light cruiser that fought during World War II. Thank you for your attention.